Good afternoon, everyone. Ayman Atieh is here. I'm a student in Hamdan bin Mohammed Smart University. As part of the Customer Centricity course, we are required to analyze one of the papers or research that was done in terms of anything related to the material content. So I chose one of the very interesting topic that a paper could handle, which examines the influence of service and food quality and perceived value on customer satisfaction. This paper took into consideration the food and beverage sector in a Thai casual restaurant, especially in the UAE. It's a very interesting actually paper that I learned a lot from, and I hope you will enjoy it here with me. I will walk you through a presentation talking about the paper, discussing what it found and what actually managers in this sector can do. Okay, we will jump now to the next slide, which focuses on the introduction. Actually, as you all know, the UAE is one of the markets that are heavily competitive by different sectors, by different restaurants. The level of service and level of competition is very high and very cruel between organization, between restaurants. They all try to provide the best service, the best quality that could affect the customers and make them come back again. So basically, this study is focusing on how what are the factors that these restaurants needs to focus on in order to be able to compete in such competitive market. So it basically focused on three basic dimensions, or one or two key dimensions and one intermediate variable, which was the service quality, food quality. These are the two main dimensions, and the third one is the perceived value, how customers see or feel the service, how they interact actually with the experience they get in return of what they give. So we will discuss that in detail. It's a very interesting article, to be honest, and I enjoyed it very much. I hope you will enjoy it too. Okay, now we will jump to the next slide. Okay, before I continue, I want to take you all and give you a brief description about the article. The article name is The Influence of Service and Food Quality and Perceived Value on Customer Satisfaction. It's basically trying to understand the variable, the dependent and independent variables that in terms of Thai casual dining restaurants in the United Arab Emirates. The authors, there are three authors for this paper. I cannot actually pronounce their names very correctly. It's focusing only on the Thai casual restaurants in the United Arab Emirates through a survey that is targeting around 391 respondents. They use the Cerviqual model, but it's some more modified in order to focus more on service performance actually. The researchers also applied multiple linear regression and applied simple regression in terms of service quality and food quality and perceived value. It's basically a qualitative survey-based research. I'm trying to examine the relationships between multiple variables and see how these variables actually affect each other, and how these variables affects the overall perceived value and the customer satisfaction as well. Okay, so what is the framework? The conceptual framework that was that this paper or the study focused on were established based on three main variables: the service of the food, the service of the food. I'm sorry, it was, yeah, it's the service and food quality. I apologize. And the second variable is the customer perceived value, which is the intermediate. And the third one is the customer satisfaction, which is the dependent variables. So basically, what it's trying to focus on is to understand how perceived value is actually affected by the other two variables, which become the intermediate variable that is actually affecting the overall customer satisfaction. So you might provide the best food in the market, you must provide the best service in the market. Actually, you didn't meet the value that the customer perceived. So basically, the, the framework that is built on based on the research design, it's focusing more the how the perceived value is the critical mediating mechanism between the quality of the inputs, which are the food quality and service quality, and the outputs, which are focusing more on the customer satisfaction. Okay. Before I wanted also to tell you more about what is actually customer perceived value, the CPV. Uh, what is this concept? Well, so it's basically based on multiple research that I I tried to read. The customer perceived value is more of a cost benefit analysis of the customer service. I'm paying this much, I'm getting this much. So I'm paying money, I'm providing time, or whatever, and I will get something in return. So is it worth it to give you this amount of money in return of what I get? So the problem in the perceived value, it's it's one of the things that is dependent on the person himself, based on his lifestyle, his culture. It differs between people, someone to someone. It differs between the same person based on the situation that he's living in. If he's in a hurry, if he's in trouble, if he's so actually the customer perceived value, it's the how the customer feel and receive the value from the service, or from from whatever is giving to him in return of what he is paying for. So accordingly, we will tell you about the key findings the of this paper. Um, it the paper is saying that the service quality explains around 48% of customer satisfaction variance. So most influential dimension is, which was the recovery actually, which is how you handle mistakes, how you do compensation, apologies, or whatever. And there are other significant dimensions that in the service quality, such as the reliability, assurance, empathy, the tangibles, etc. Actually, and I was amazed when I saw that responsiveness was not one of the significant areas um, that the service quality would be affected, or would affect the perceived value. In terms of the food quality, it explains around 40% of the customer satisfaction variance. It's one of the significant predicators, and there are much of factors that actually working or being the insignificant, such as freshness and presentation, the proper cooking, and variety of menu. Um, Now we will tell you about the perceived value, which explains less than the other factors that which are 33.9% of the customer satisfaction variance. But actually, the customers evaluate price fairness, the value for money, and the competitive pricing, which is the one of the main and significant factors uh, related to that. So what the data revealed? we can conclude from the data that the perceived value is the strongest predicator of the customer satisfaction and affects food and service quality alone, and can be affected by these two. The quality inputs must translate into the sense of value. Okay, I get the food, but how this food is affecting how I see it, how the customer see it. So this is very important. You think you provide the best service in the world, but still you are not actually fulfilling the customer needs, or fulfilling what. Okay, you're providing the service, but is it actually worth to pay $300 for that? So this is how things change. You should not only think about how can I update or enhance the food quality, or how can I enhance the service quality. It's more of how I can balance between these factors or these quality inputs and the perceived value. I'm paying $300. I need to get something in return that can return actually the $300 that I paid. So, what is the implications of that? The, 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 the main implication that we need to train staff in effective service recovery. Since the service recovery, which is actually handling when the service failures, when service fail, how do we recover? How do we compensate? How do we provide the customer with and treat him with empathy and respect in order to get back. And one of the paper I also read about was talking about uh, that 40% of people who get a very good service recovery, they become loyal than other people that are actually did not uh, witness any service failures in their experience with the company. And we need to maintain high food quality standards, ensure competitive pricing, promotions, and especially during low seasons, and empower employees to solve service failures immediately. Actually, in conclusion, um, customer satisfaction in Thai casual dining restaurants in the UAE can be significantly influenced by the service recovery ability, which is one of the important service factors, the high food quality, and the perceived value for money, the cost benefit analysis. And one of the also the areas that I added to the paper actually, and I can conclude that the UAE context is one of the um, is very important here. You need to understand the level of living, the culture, the different people, the level of performance, the level of competition between the market, because this actually affects how services are perceived how quality are perceived. You might expect more when you are in the UAE, and you expect less when you're going for other countries. So they are raising actually the bar. They are raising the standards, and you need to match these standards. You need to come and provide the service quality with that actually in balance with the perceived value of the customer themselves. Um, and I also put you the references. In the end, I want to actually um, to let's say criticize the paper or the how they actually went through this research. It's a very important, very nice approach to follow, following a qualitative study or survey in such domain is very limited. You need to combine it with qualitative analysis. You need to conduct focus groups. You need to analyze more, make meetings with these restaurants owners, and you need to understand more what is actually causing this level of variation and level of satisfaction. And And you also, and I think the paper as well need to focus more on the on other areas, and take into consideration multiple variables that need to take into consideration. Um, I think it's oversimplified model. It's only focusing on the key factors. It's not focusing also on the behavioral intentions, maybe the loyalty, the word of mouth, maybe the brand image of the companies themselves. There are lots of mediating and moderating effects should be examined in such analysis. I think going for only these key factors and one mediating factor is actually making it less powerful. And I think also it should take into consideration some contextual variables such as the cultural diversity impact, since it's critical, as I mentioned in the UAE. The dining occasions, if it's for business or for family, the location, maybe the restaurant's ambience and brand reputation. I think there are multiple factors should be examined before I come to conclude about this. Um, I also I think there are an issue with the methodology that is used. I think they use the same survey and same respondent and the same Likert scale across different, which is wrong. I think due to the cultural differences, we need to do some sort of normalization of data, and we need to take into consideration like some single factor test, or the Harman single factor test. I think it can take additional approach in order to provide a better analysis. In the end, I think it's a very nice topic to discuss. I believe, um, as one of the users of restaurants, especially the fine casual Thai food, I think the perceived value is very important. The food quality is important, the service quality is important. There are lots of factors that actually affecting the customer satisfaction. But for me, I think uh, for everything that is considered a service, perceived value is everything. I pay something, I need to get something in return. So this is the key topic. And I left you as well in the presentation. I filled you the paper. You can double click and open the object, and you can examine all the details regarding it. I took lots of time. Thank you all for your time, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation. And see you soon. Thank you all.